Hello everyone and welcome back to Riverview, or sort of realistic North American themed metropolitan area here in City Skylines 2. Now in the most recent episode we did further revamps to the downtown transit hub here that we've been working on for a couple of episodes, and I'm pretty happy to say that after letting the simulation run for a bit, the traffic here isn't actually all that bad. It does get a bit bogged down during rush hour, but otherwise it's actually pretty fine. Now our work here at the transit hub and with the transit lines throughout the city are far from done. We're gonna need new tram lines, we're gonna need new bus lines, we're gonna need new commuter rail lines, and potentially even the first metro line in the near future. But I think for now we're just gonna pause this a bit, because while I've been away from home for about 2 weeks, a bunch of new mods has released, including custom zoning types. So this is something I really want to dive into. So today we're going to revamp a very old neighborhood of Riverview completely, creating something hopefully unique and nice looking, and I can't wait to dig in. Now I couldn't help but to read and react to some comments from my phone on my 2 weeks hiatus, and as always I just want to thank you guys so much for all the engagement and all the support, and here's a friendly reminder to like this video if you enjoy my content. Thank you. So what's on the menu for today, you wonder? Well, if we move just north of Old Port, we've got Northside, and it's a predominantly residential, low-density, single-family detached housing neighborhood we built many moons ago, and it doesn't really have any outstanding features. Although it is very popular and very expensive, the average wealth is wealthy, they're very happy, but you're close to just about everything. You're almost you are in walking distance to downtown, if people walked. This is America, so they don't, but you are. And it's generally a pretty nice place to be. You've got an expressway cutting through the area, which is a pretty vital traffic arterial, but depending on your need for, commuting, which I guess might be pretty high, then that's actually a positive, although it does add a bit of noise pollution. So why revamp Northside? Well, I think I just need to add more density, basically. I really want to push above 100,000 population, because it's going to be a major milestone. And since parts of Old Port have now been developed into the Yard, which is a super dense, hipster-friendly area here, then I think it's only natural that Northside has actually always been a more dense area than how I envisioned it initially. So we're gonna revamp much of the road layout here and create a small city center basically. And I do intend to really use these new row house zoning types rather extensively, because I really think that adds a ton of possibilities. But I'm also going to make Northside a little more run down. So I want to try and create an area where parts of it are gentrified. You can get an avocado toast everywhere, but it's gonna cost you nice coffees as well. But other parts are gonna be a little more shady in nature and full of graffiti. Because another possibility, of course, is that we can start adding these murals, graffitis and decals through some awesome new mods. And yeah, I can't wait to dig into this. It's really taking detailing in City Skylines 2 to a whole new level. So yeah, modders come to the rescue again. Anyways, enough rambling, let's get started. So I think the first thing I'm just gonna do is maybe change the road network types here a bit, so that we can just assess whether we want to keep some of the existing layout and some of the zoning possibilities it's going to provide, or how much we're actually going to revamp. So I think some of these on and off lanes, or slip lanes, whatever we want to call them, we're gonna remove those, and then we are going to just kind of upgrade, or rather downgrade is probably the right term, some of the expressway segments here, so that we kind of get an idea of how we would actually zone this out and how dense we can expect it to be. So the 4-laner here, we are just going to upgrade to this 4-lane road. Are we going to have, I guess we might have a median, in the center here. And we've got some on-off ramps here, which we're gonna remove as well, and just continue upgrading this throughout. Alright, so we've upgraded that, and I'm going to change the zoning here so that we can develop alongside the main road here. And then we've got a segment here which is probably due an upgrade as well. So we'll remove this one and upgrade at least one segment here. Let's see if I can just... Yeah, snapping's not gonna work. Fantastic. Do like this, and then potentially just... Yeah, that's actually... Okay, this variation might work. Although that's looking a bit funky. We can move in with move it though. Hold down Alt, and then we can manipulate the node here. Like this, and then it's a much nicer, smoother transition. And I'm just going to do the very same trick here and expand the footprint of this intersection here. Because it is going to be, it already is quite a busy crossing, and I don't think that's going to change when we start adding higher densities here. It's probably only going to get worse or better, depending how much you like seeing traffic in your cities. I would say it's going to get better. Unless it gets completely awful, which I do have a track history or track record of, as you guys probably know by now. And I'm just gonna move in and remove some of this stuff here. So let's check it. Okay, so we've got a central intersection here. It's a good first change. And I think the remaining road layout isn't actually all that bad, although some of these small lanes ending in cul-de-sacs are really, they really do look purpose-built for single-family detached housing. So we're probably gonna get rid of some of those, get rid of this stuff here, and potentially also just revamp a bit of this lane layout here. So I think I'm just gonna dezone this stuff, get a bit of a fresh start going, and remove these lanes. Then we're gonna map out a pretty simple structured grid, because yeah, the road layout really isn't the exciting part of this build. It's the row house zoning we'll be able to do, and the amount of detailing we'll be able to do. That's gonna be the fun bits. So getting this road through here, and maybe even going at an angle here just to add a bit of interest to it, to the area, sorry. Actually, we'll just go about 90 and connect up here, and then we might as well just continue this road. And I did say it's gonna be a grid, but it's not gonna be a perfect grid. We have plenty of odd angles here, and that's perfectly fine. I think I actually prefer that. We can always use move it, or free placement with Anarchy to adjust how our buildings align. And then hopefully there are gonna be some parts which we can zone, which are gonna look all right, even though we zoned them. So just gonna add in a few small alleyways here and there. There we go. Let's run a small alleyway through here as well. Make it a bit more interesting, and then we'll probably be removing this lane and just bringing that back ever so slightly. There is going to be some single family low density stuff out here. It's not a complete revamp, but I just want a bit more space alongside the main avenue here. And let's get rid of all these guys. And I guess the southern part of Northside is also due for a bit of a revamp, because we've once again got these cul-de-sac structures that I really want to get rid of. So deleting a bunch of lanes here, and then we'll just be ramming some of these roads through the area. Add this simple one here, and then to kind of create the grid but have it at a bit of an off angle, we're gonna actually, we might as well just go 90 degrees here if we can. That's gonna make it just a bit easier. Like this, and we'll bring another lane through here, add a bit of an odd shape. And maybe just upgrade this segment here, enable some snapping. Yoink. So I think that concludes our initial road layout at least, and we're gonna switch to actually placing some buildings now. And I'm gonna approach this in like with two different strategies, I guess. So I'm gonna designate some focal points, some important parts where we'll have high detail stuff. So I'm thinking alongside Aspen Street, and especially this crossing between Briarwood Street and Aspen Street. And this is areas where I'm going to predominantly manually plop down the buildings I want to use. They're still going to be functional due to the Plop the Growables mod, but I just want to really detail this up and make it a really busy place with lots of cafes and cool shops and stuff. And then for the remaining areas, like all this filler that is going to be mainly residential row house units, I'm actually going to zone it. And since it's not a strict grid, then obviously there are some, we'll have some odd angles and we'll have lots of space in between some of the buildings. But I don't really mind. Hopefully I can maybe create a few empty lots and just add in some big, old, beautiful trees in between and make it look and feel a bit organic. Yeah, even though it's not a strict grid. When we get to that, I'm gonna use the pavement path to kind of cut up these blocks here and make the zoning a little easier. So for instance here, I would much prefer if I just cut in here so that I don't have, you know, it's gonna look odd if we have 6 tiles deep row houses here and then 2 6 tiles deep here and then just a wall here facing this sidewalk. I'm gonna use the pavement path to kind of cut up the zoning blocks, make them a little more appropriate for the zoning of the row houses. I think you guys all know this technique, and fortunately it works the best with row houses because they can fit down to a 1x2 lot size, so I'm hopeful it's gonna look okay. Anyways, with the strategies in mind, I think we're gonna start detailing up the crossing here. Alright, so we'll need some corner lots first. Let's grab some of these all new ones. Let's see, we'll go for buildings, we'll go for mixed buildings, and then I think I'm just gonna go for a list view, since they, if we change to row house, so they pop up, they don't actually have any thumbnails or pictures here, because they would have to be manually added to the Find It mod, or the image gallery library mod that you use in conjunction with it, but that's okay. It highlights to us what we have available at least, so I think we're gonna switch to the North American theme and then get some of the corner lots placed. So obviously the 3x3s are gonna be corner lots, and the cool thing is we have different levels, and the higher level the more stuff they basically have. So at level 5 there's this bad boy here, which has at least one restaurant, which even offers food on the actual roof, which is pretty cool. And I'm gonna bring all the buildings alongside Aspen Street a bit back from the road here, so that we can have some pretty wide sidewalks with lots of detailing, planters, trees, cafe tables and whatnot, all that good stuff. So I'm just gonna start by placing this one first, and yeah, it's a perfect start to this, I think. And then we're gonna grab another corner lot and probably place that over here. This is only a 2x2, but that's fine because the corner here is at a bit of a sharp angle. So if I have to try and make the buildings look like they are actually made to follow the road, then I will have to do a bit of magic here by splicing some buildings together. So if I were to grab something like this, and then with Anarchy on, I should be able to just kind of, let's see, we'll do something like this, because the building has a bit of an odd shape if we don't hide part of it. And that looks pretty good. And we'll just add, I think we'll just add one more here with some shops as well. And we'll of course need to add some stuff over here as well. I think I'll just be adding this building. I might go for a distance here actually, so that we can get, oh wait, I'm gonna splice this in and then go for something a little higher density here with a bit of, with like an open spot between the two buildings, where there probably used to be a row house, but there isn't anymore. And then we can add some details for that abandoned lot and maybe add some graffiti or murals to the mixed use building. So to go ahead and grab a mixed use building, we'll just go to medium density, and I'm gonna need one that's only 2 lots wide and not too tall, because it's not gonna be anything fancy. So let's see, level 1 is probably what we are looking for, and maybe something like this, and then leave a bit of distance in between for the empty lot and just place that down. And that's pretty much just how I'm going to continue mapping out this area. Having this distance here is gonna allow for some interesting tiling, some trees, some other details as well. And with all these shops and restaurants lined up, there's plenty of opportunity for avocado toasts and getting into 2. I think we're gonna handle this corner here now. Before I move on though, I am just going to add crosswalks here. It's gonna be a major crossing, very busy I assume. And then we'll move in and add in some form of corner lot here. And let's just see, so do we have an actual low density, or no, low level, sorry, corner lot here that's a good fit? They quickly, it's just too big. It starts dominating its surroundings completely, and that's really not what I want. So perhaps instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch to European, go down to some row houses, and then we're gonna find the corner lots available in the European theme. So let's see, do we have any with a lot width of 3? We do, so let's just have a look. This is pretty cool actually. And how does the 2x2s look? There's actually a 2x3, just a couple of row houses stitched together. And I think I kind of like that look, so if I can just move that a bit back here, make sure we've got a bit of an open place out front, then I can quickly just add another unit, North American themed, enable some Anarchy so that we can kind of stitch this in. And we've got another corner. We've also got ample opportunity now to add some of these murals that I guess make Northside rather famous. And so let's see if we can find, so these are just wonderful, and some of them are really big, so I'll have to find something that can kind of really fill out much of this wall here. This one is really amazing, but I think I actually prefer placing it over here instead, where it's almost the perfect fit. Hopefully I can kind of cover some of the edges here down on the ground with some bushes, but I mean that looks fantastic. And then maybe over here we can do something like this. How's this actually supposed to be turned this way? Look at this building now. Oh, awesome, these new features. Our placement continues, grabbing additional row houses, getting them aligned, getting some shops in here. I'm gonna make sure the lots aren't too deep, because there's a small alley behind here as well, where we'll have some residential units, hopefully growing perfectly fine without me having to adjust too much. Let's see if we can squeeze in a medium density as well. So before we move on with any more placements of these new row buildings here, I want to place a hospital. Because I haven't actually placed one in the city yet. I have plenty of medical clinics, but haven't placed a proper hospital, and the reason is that I'm really not too happy with the standard hospital, as it's huge and it just kind of looks a bit odd, I feel. I'll probably get some room for it eventually as the city continues to grow. But I have downloaded some custom-made hospitals instead, which is awesome. So if we grab this one here, which is called the local hospital, then the size is much more manageable, and it's obviously higher capacity and quite a bit bigger than the standard medical clinic. but it's just nowhere near the size of the, I guess you would say, vanilla hospital. So I think we're gonna be placing this one somewhere central here in Northside, probably alongside Aspen Street. Let's see, we might maybe just add it here even, actually facing the street. Because I want to have some extra space, because it's actually upgradable, which is really cool since it's a custom user-made asset. So I think we're just gonna place it here. Now it's got two available upgrades. One is an extension wing with a park, which increases the patient capacity by, I think it's 150. And the other is an additional garage for 5 ambulances. And a really cool feature is it has a functional helipad. So we're already seeing the ambulance helicopter take off to go and, I don't know, rescue people, presumably. But I think I'm gonna place down the parking lot garage extension here just to kind of have a look at it. And it's of the same very high quality that the main asset is, so that's really, really cool. Really loving this service road as well. So I think if we're just gonna jump into a surface menu, we can easily just expand on the existing surfaces, just like this, making sure it looks good. But even with the additional parking, I think we need a bit more parking for the hospital here. So I'm going to try and create some new type of custom parking that I haven't really experimented with before. Something I've also found on the PDX mods. So the first thing I'm just going to do is align the hospital to the very corner here, because then we get a bit of an open space here and potentially here as well, which we can use for parking. So the asset ships with a bunch of bushes here, but with updates to the better Bulldozer mod, if we select the remove sub-elements, we can actually start deleting stuff pretty easily from established assets, which is really nice. So now I've just kind of cleaned out all the stuff here so that we've got lots of empty space here. So to utilize the new type of functional parking I've downloaded, we're actually gonna make it completely custom. I'm gonna jump into my pathways and we're going to create an invisible car path. And let's just align it like this. I'm gonna make sure it connects to the road. And the same thing over here, 90-degree angle. And we've got a bit of space here as well. So I think I'm going to go for this very narrow two-way road here. We're just gonna disable snapping so that we can add that in easily and get that connected up here. And now we've got our road setup all done. So if we jump into roads and parking spaces, I've downloaded these new functional ploppable parking lots, which is really cool, something I've really been missing from City Skylines 1. So let's just grab, maybe we'll grab some parking for the disabled people to go close to the hospital building, and we'll disable snapping, of course. We'll enable Anarchy so we can freely move it. And then if we say show markers, we'll actually see the road layout, the invisible road layout we've created, which is going to enable us to pretty easily just connect this up in here. And this is, yeah, this is obviously where the magic happens, because it's also going to show us whether or not the parking spaces are properly connected to the actual road. And as we can see, they are. So I can just align this and add the parking spaces I need, and cars will use these. They'll be fully functional. So let's just get this aligned and create a few more. I'm just gonna align this real close. And I think this is about it. Then we'll go into extra assets, surfaces, and I'm going to grab this pavement surface too, because it should match the light gray pavement surface that we've used here, or that's been used with the asset rather. And then once again, if I say show markers, then we can actually see where the invisible road runs, which is gonna make it very easy for us. And not only that, if we have snapping on, the game is actually going to snap to the road. So yeah, Yeah, it doesn't get much easier than this, and we can always do a bit of fine adjustment, but for now, I really just want to map this out. Yoink. And look how cool that already looks. With our surfaces still selected, I am just going to connect up these parts here. We'll just keep snapping on as well. And just create sort of a similar configuration here. I think something like this is probably fine. So there's another cool tool or mod I want to show you, which allows us to autofill some of these empty spaces with surfaces. So if I select this grass texture here and I click this little area bucket, then it's actually going to allow me to automatically fill in some of these empty surfaces. It's a little wonky, but generally it really is quite cool. And like, look at, for a space like this, it works really well. So if I just move in here, for instance, and I just click, we've got a surface which I can then drag out. I can also just click again. So, I mean, yeah, the mods just keep getting better and better. I'm not gonna place those down because I don't want a lot of finely cut grass around the hospital. I just want it to be kind of barren as it is now. What we can do though is utilize the hitches that have been used for this asset here. So if we go into extra assets and net lanes and go into fence net lanes, then I should be able to find the exact hitch that has been used here. I'll just disable snapping. So it's obviously one of the lower ones, or those that aren't as tall, and it looks to be this particular one here. So knowing that, I can move in and add in some hitches here so that the parking lot basically looks like it's always been a part of the hospital asset here. And if we use the picker tool, we can select some of the sub-elements used on this asset here so that we have continuity in the same type of props used. So for instance, we can grab the lights here and we can easily add that to our parking lot. And this one will actually double as lighting for the street as well, it seems. Or just add a couple of these. And we'll just have one in the very center here. Like that. And then just for the heck of it, I want to grab this decal here and just align that and add here. We don't want cars to park here alongside this stretch here, not even for a short while. And we'll just grab a shorter version. Very nice. Now for one of the final touches, something I'm very excited about. We've got decals in game now. This is a real game changer for me. If you know my City Skylines 1 content, I've always felt that decals is one of the best bang for the buck ways of detailing because they are easy to place. They usually don't consist of too many triangles performance wise, but they just add so much detail to a place. So we are gonna add some of these lovely ones. Gonna make this hospital rather old, adding in a bunch of stains and stuff, just to play with all this because it's so cool. So cool. So I'm just gonna add these at random throughout. Not gonna go too heavy on these. I think we've got different types of decals we can use. I want to use a bit of everything really. There you go. Let's see if we can get some of these with cracks in the road as well. And let's just have a look at this. It just adds so much. It's such a small thing, but it really adds a lot of stuff. So if we're to keep with the landscaping or flora used on this custom asset here, I'll be using the picker mod to just select the trees used. And it looks like it's been used in a bit of a smaller size, so we'll add a couple of these throughout. Until here, and let's see, there's some bushes used as well. We've got these small ones, but are these actually part of the Well, I guess I'll just grab these ones then. And with that final detailing touch, that concludes the completion of Northside Hospital, which is now open for business, ready to take in patients. And we've got a minivan which just drove up this small road here and parked, so everything's working as intended. So with this in place, I think we're gonna get back into populating Aspen Street with lots of row houses and mixing in some mixed use and medium density as well. let's take a little recap of what we've built. Focused on Aspen Street, crossing with the main avenue here, and yeah, just detailing it up. I think these murals add a ton of character to probably any area you add it to, but especially an area like this, which is supposed to be, you know, rich in fancy cafes and you know, subcultures and lots of hipsters and stuff like that. So a pretty good fit, I find. And the cool thing about these mixed-use row houses, this new zoning type, is that they feature quite a few props on their own. So I didn't want to go overboard in adding additional props. I did add a few here and there though, just to kind of add a bit of an extra touch to it. But generally I want to be a bit careful with just how many props I add, because I don't really know how it's gonna affect performance in the long term. And speaking of which, I think this is pretty much the extent of the, let's say, high detailed parts of Northside we'll be doing. So what we'll jump into now is doing some clever zoning to get a bunch of residential row houses in here, as well as a bit of medium density. Interestingly, my population has been steadily decreasing throughout this entire episode, so I'm assuming I'm hitting a bit of a diff wave currently. Yeah, that seems to be the case, but this kind of ebbs and flows back and forth, so hopefully it's gonna stabilize. Anyways, let's get to the zoning. So as I mentioned in the very beginning of the episode, I'm going to use the pavement path with no anarchy on. With anarchy enabled but no snapping, so that I can break up some of these zoning grids the way I want. This is a good example. If I were just to zone this, then we'd have this really odd corner here where we got 6 tiles deep row houses. It's gonna look very weird. Just adding this is going to be quite an improvement. And I'm just gonna move through and kind of do this at a couple of places, break up some of these grids as well. I'll do something like this, and I'll just bring this through. And the cool thing is that, or rather a little trick I've learned, is that if you go ahead and delete the pavement paths now, then you might find that the zones are going to revert to a layout that you don't want. But I've learned that if you want to fix that, then if you actually I'm just gonna pause, if you move in and you zone it up, and then you remove the pavement paths, then it's going to conform to the same zoning layout that you enforced with the pavement paths. It's just going to add some extra tiles, of course, because the paths are now gone. So yeah, maybe people already knew this, and that's fine, but it's something I learned very recently, and it's been quite helpful actually. So I'm gonna move through and fix these zones. Now before we hit play and let all this stuff populate, I'm going to move in with some mixed row zone and just zone some of that, especially alongside the main avenue here, where I'm gonna try and achieve a bit of a transition where we move from lots of mixed use with some shops here, and then as we move further north alongside the avenue, it kind of thins out. And I'm going to add in a few very, very small commercial establishments as well. And they increase in frequency as we move a bit north, although there are really not a lot of them. So something like this. And we'll grab the mixed use again. We'll add some alongside this street here, Cedar Street. And of course alongside Aspen Street here. And on this side of the avenue as well. We'll add in just a bit of low density commercial as well. And I think we're gonna break this up a bit. Get some zoning in here instead. And with all this in place, I've just hit play so we can let Northside develop for a bit. So it seems things have really taken shape now, and I just want to wrap up with some final detailing before I dive into adding a ton of trees and other stuff. So I've downloaded a bunch of really nice planters that I would like to use here on the median, and we've got some of these rectangular ones which might be a very good fit. Of course I don't want them to take up all the space, but something like this I think is really nice. So I'll grab this one here, and then I'll just be adding them. Instead of using the line tool, I don't want to mess with that because the avenue here curves for a bit. I'm just gonna add one of these in between each of the major lights that kind of straddle the avenue, and then we'll place a large tree, a hickory or maybe an oak. Let's see, the oaks are probably a little much, and they're just so bulky that they kind of take away from the scenery as well. So the hickory is probably a good middle ground. It's still a big tree, but it isn't that invasive. Let's see, the birch is of course the obvious choice because it's kind of slim, but I'm already using that at a couple places. So I think we're gonna go with the hickories here. And I think this actually turned out pretty nice. It's midday, so we can't really see the planters due to the shades of the trees, but it looks pretty cool with this tree-lined avenue eventually leading into downtown. So for the remainder of these areas, I'm going to add a ton of bushes and some trees as well. So first I'm just gonna grab the brush, and then we'll conjure some form of bushes here. I'm gonna deselect this one here because it has a pretty strong color, so it kind of stands out a bit. Then I'm gonna disable Anarchy so I don't end up covering the roads with this. And we're gonna bring the brush strength up to about 100, and then I'm just gonna be spamming until I have a pretty good layer, and then I'll be adding in all the trees afterwards. So I imagine this is an area that is very lush and green, and people that reside in these row house units here, they really prioritize having really lush, almost overgrown gardens, because they kind of want that bit of nature, even though it's pretty much city living. For the trees, I'm really going to use a mixture of a lot of different trees, apple trees, oaks. We're gonna go for pretty much all the bigger trees of the game, and just increase the brush size and pretty much go by the same principle here. And then when I've covered, oh wait, I'm just gonna make some adjustments so we get a few different sizes spawning as well, just for a bit of extra variety. And then when I have finished up painting with all these trees, I'm gonna move in with Anarchy and place some bigger oaks on some spots where the game doesn't allow you to place trees if you don't have Anarchy. And I think that's actually it. I am pretty happy with how our little revamp of Northside has turned out. Resident count has been bumped substantially, still wealthy and a very happy district, but I can understand why. I mean, as we zoom in and take a look at some of these smaller or at least more quieter streets, you are in walking distance to just about everything you need. Could grab a bike to downtown Riverview if bikes were a part of the game. But it's very lush, it's very green, so I can really imagine how this is a very popular area, especially with young people, younger couples as well. And yeah, here at the main crossing, we've got pretty much all you need. Lots of cafes, bars, small shops, and as we move north alongside the avenue, we've got let's see if we can find them. We've got a few small commercial establishments as well, where you can do a bit of grocery store shopping. So I'm gonna need a name for this avenue here. Briarwood Street is just not cool or hip enough for Northside. So if you've got a suggestion, feel free to leave a comment. And speaking of leaving comments, someone suggested a few episodes back that I actually drain the custom river that I created in one of the very first episodes here, and create something else with the new space we'll acquire then. And I've been kind of considering it because I really haven't managed to get proper water flow through here, and it has also kind of lowered the water levels here for a long time, which does look a little odd. I'm really considering just kind of terraforming this into land again, removing the river entirely, and then, you know, we could do major parks or even a highway network, or maybe something else entirely if you've got any ideas. So yeah, I'm considering draining it, removing it entirely, but I wanna hear what you guys think. Let me know. And I think with that said, I've been rambling enough, asking for enough feedback, so I'm gonna jump into shooting some cinematics. This build has been very fun. It's been very fun to try some of these new mods and some of these new zoning types. I feel I've got quite a bit of stuff to learn here in City Skylines 2 as we get more and more detailing options, but I'm pretty positive about the future of the game, seeing as these mods are moving in. And I mean, there's very few excuses now for going ham with the details, at least. So now we're really just waiting for the actual custom assets and the region packs, but with the outlook of them coming by the end of the summer, or maybe even shortly after the summer, if I interpret their latest message correct, I think we're gonna be in a really good spot. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, all the support, commenting, likes, all that good stuff. I'm gonna shoot some hopefully nice cinematics, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.